everybody. Welcome to Decide to Dominate. Bear with us. We're going to try something new today. Here we go. All right. Well, while we're waiting to bring on our special guests, opening day is Thursday. So, kind of already had opening day in Korea. So that was kind of, interesting new way to go about doing about it. But yeah. So, are you excited for Thursday?
I am.
Mets play the Brewers. I mean, I guess you root for the Mets, right? Obviously.
I mean, I like to watch individual players, but that uniform is something I like a little.
That's pretty dope, like the pinstripes.
Yeah. I would have worn my Mets hat, but I couldn't find it.
I see you rocking that Marlins hat, dude. I'm loving that. I got that same hat.
I couldn't find the Mets, so I said the next best thing to Marlins.
I'm representing Ecuador today, so I'm fully EA today. So we're trying something new. Hold on, we got some bunch of guests out here today. So it's good. It's growing on Caffeine TV, No Filter Network. Appreciate if our special guest is out there. If you want to try to knock, we might let you in. Oh, hold on, we got a knock.
I heard that knock.
You can do that over there for us, Haley. Haley on the mic.
Was that a knock?
We're gonna get Haley on there one day. We should have Haley sit right here between us one day. That would be really fun.
All right, so you should be accepting.
Can I hear that knock again?
Hey,
there he is.
All right.
We got
there?
a special guest. There he is.
Knock, knock.
So we had a lot of technical difficulties, but hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, I'm from North Carolina, so we got a bunch of dumb sayings like that. So thanks for being on the show, Derek Gaskill, everybody. So
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so welcome to the show. We usually like to do kind of like a warm up in the green room, but we didn't get a chance to do that today. But so this is Decide to Dominate. I know you've talked to DJ, but we haven't even met face to face yet, so it's really exciting for me. We were just talking about opening day on Thursday. It's perfect timing. You had a 14-year career in professional baseball, played for the Brewers, the Blue Jays, the Mets. The Brewers and the Mets open on Thursday against each other. So I got some questions along those lines from multiple teams in the past. But you played against A-Rod. You pitched against A-Rod, Derek Jeter. You played with Ricky Henderson, Earl Hershiser. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We're really excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Yeah, I have some stories.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, he's got some crazy stories.
So DJ, kick it off and tell us how we got to Derek, how you two connected.
So Derek and I were introduced by a mutual friend who also played baseball, by the way. He didn't play in the pros, but he was a pitcher with the Florida State
Seminoles. Was Dion was on that team, right?
Dion was on that team.
Him and Dion were also.
Yeah, it's a great story how he and I reconnected. But we were childhood friends, and then we reconnected after I saw him play for the Florida State team. So anyway, so Derek and I were introduced by him.
And Derek's a local guy. He lives like right down the road.
Absolutely.
We should have had him in the studio.
Absolutely. Yeah, you didn't think about that.
I know. We thought about it too late. Next time.
Born and raised in Portsmouth, Virginia.
All right.
P-Town.
P-Town, baby. Cool. Well, thank you for being on with us today. Give us a little bit of your background and your story.
Well, I was born in Portsmouth. I love the Bible. The Bible says, they were referring to Jesus. They said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And we always say, can anything come out of P-Town?
I love it.
But, the long and short of it is I had a crazy childhood. I've met people that had it worse than me. But my parents were divorced when I was about 2 or 3. And then I lived with my mom all over the place, mostly all over the greater Hampton Roads area. And, so we moved around a lot. She was in drugs and so on in the party scene. And I didn't live with my dad until I was 12. It was always decided I'd move in with him when I was 12. And but he was an alcoholic and ended up dying from it.
Wow.
And so I ended up around a lot of the wrong friends. And in fact, most all of those friends, I heard later on, ended up in prison or dead. And from doing the things we were doing from 11 to 14, they continued in it. But the Lord saw a way that he said, no, I got it, and my dad was like, you're getting in too much trouble. So I moved in with my grandma and back into Portsmouth. She had always lived in Portsmouth and I lived there. And then Manor High School was big on the baseball scene then. It had a great program and I got involved there. I met my best friend who lived 3 doors down from me. And then that called on because the coach said, "Hey, you're really raw, but you have a lot of talent. You need to go to Old Dominion camps, which were the best on the East Coast back then, under Pat McMahon."
Yep, I used to go to the same
Great,
camp.
No kidding.
Yeah, I used to go to Pat McMahon camp. Yeah, ODU. Yep,
unbelievable, right?
they
I
were
mean,
a good
they
camp.
man, and so I called on to what they said, and the coach there, Jim Farr, said, you could be great if you do mirror drills and other, the other things they had laid out. And I said, done deal. And it rekindled my dream that I had had since I was a young kid. And then what was interesting was my ninth grade year, I come back to Manor and get cut from JV and varsity ninth grade year. And so that motivated me even more when I went to those camps. The following morning after getting from JV, I had the kids in my history class making fun of me. I had my head down on the desk, and when I should have just cried about it and say, what was I thinking? Because it was like a baseball powerhouse at the time. Instead, something rose up in me and said, I'm going to wear a major league uniform one day. And I just said it, and I just fully believed it with every bit of my heart. And so 6 years later, I actually did. And if you had seen me, you'd have said, there ain't no way that boy right there will ever wear any kind of pro uniform, much less even out of high school. You wouldn't have thought by looking at me. But what I teach baseball now. I preach and then I teach baseball to individuals. And I tell them, that I'll ask them what moves your body, what makes your body move, what controls your body. And they eventually say the right answer, which is your brain. I say, okay, well, now what controls your brain? What tells your brain what it should be thinking? And the right answer is heart.
Mm.
And so, but your heart has to be in the right place. That's where I connect them to a creator, because your creator created you for a purpose and a specific set of reasons. And so it's vision. It's now you have a vision much bigger than yourself. And that's what the Lord created in my heart that day in Miss Moore's U.S. history class, was a vision much bigger than me. And that if you have that big, it always lifts you up to it. So a lot of the junk will be moved out of the way. Things you would normally do, you won't do, even if you want to. The temptations that come along, no, that doesn't fit into my dream. And so the Lord used a dream about baseball. I was obsessed with it. It had to happen. There was no other option. I had to have it. I love that it's decide to dominate, because what you decide is from your heart. If you let your brain do the deciding, you're going to always go negative and stinking thinking. But if your heart can tell your brain to shut up. I want to be great. I don't care if it hurts or if it's uncomfortable. I want to be great. But you got to have your heart in the right place. And that's the key. And so that's a lot of, what I teach and preach now. And so that's how
There is so much to unpack there. I mean, when you were talking about that moment on the desk, I instantly thought of the South Downey. I mean, that is your moment in time where you did exactly that. You decided you were going to dominate. You were obsessed with playing baseball. And you made me think about with what you were saying. First of all, I can see why you're a good teacher when it comes to baseball, and B, you're a good preacher, because you're very moving when you speak. Yeah. But I was thinking about, even in my personal life, my son, I played baseball in college, and that's all I wanted to do. And I hurt my knee, and I had to kind of move on and do other things. But my son right now, my daughter is on the varsity team as an 8th grader playing soccer. And she's playing with bigger kids, and we were having that conversation with her just yesterday. But my son plays rec and travel baseball, and he's trying out for middle school today. And literally his tryout today, he's like, "What if I get cut?" And I was just like, "Dude, Michael Jordan got cut from his basketball team. Like, it doesn't."
There it is. Yeah.
All these other things, and like, to your point, I mean, you're another good example I can give tonight. No matter how the tryout goes, just like what you can do if you put your mind to it, and if your heart's in the right place. So. I don't know. I know you. I mean, and it's almost like you read Decide to Dominate the book, because a lot of what you said is, I mean, in there.
I think he actually did read the book.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
or at least part of it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. And you're right too, because not that I'm comparing myself to Jordan, but we have that similarity where it was fuel.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to dominate, you need fuel. you know, and that fuel has to be sustaining. And part of his fuel, which was mine, was getting cut.
Right.
You know, it's like I had the mentality like, I'll show you. I had a chip on my shoulder.
Right.
I actually, when I'm dealing with students, I actually talk about this because a lot of them have great parents. Most everyone that comes to me, they're not going to take the time and spend the money if their parents aren't already invested. And so they're typically great parents. I didn't have that. I didn't have, you know, and so for me, it was actually a blessing that I didn't have that. For them, it actually, if not careful, having great parents can actually be a weakness as far as drive, because I call them, they go where they're towed, TOWED. You know, and that's it. You know, Johnny, it's time for your lesson. Time to go. We weren't like that. I mean, I start to sound like an old fart when I say this, but we would tell our parents when our games were.
Yep.
So there was more personally involved. Your heart was more attached to it. We had our schedule on the refrigerator.
Yeah, like just dying to get to that next game.
Oh,
like,
you just couldn't wait.
You'd ride your bike there if you had to.
That's
Like
right.
That, and I did. And
Right.
I did. There were times where I did. You know, and you go by the refrigerator, you say, oh, okay, yeah. And you know what day your next game is, but you look again anyway.
Yeah.
And that's part of what's missing with texting and all. And the parents are like, oh, you know, hey, come on, let's go. You got a game today. And the kid has to get off his device and say, I do.
Yeah.
And it's so, but when they come to my place, it's not like that. And I make it very clear, you know. And so I speak more to their brain and their hearts than anything. I have to get to that first. And then they always do better, because if your heart is telling your brain what to think, your brain will tell your body what to do better, because your brain controls your body.
Right.
So as a default, if I get their heart right, get their heart going in the right direction, they automatically pitch or hit better or whatever. So it always comes back to your heart.
So Derek, so in your quest, especially in your younger years before you make it to the pros, when or if there was a moment, when did you know that, okay, I've got a shot to play in the pros or get drafted? Is there a moment in your youth
That's a great question, because, you know, going back to when I was like, since I could talk, 4, 5, 6, 3, you know, somewhere around in there, I would tell everyone I was going to play a pro sport one day. And my dream was to do part of what you actually did. I wanted to play all three, basketball, football, baseball. And when I was young, up until about 12 or so, if it was basketball season, you couldn't get me off the court. Local hoops, wherever, it didn't matter. And I just didn't want to leave. And then football, same, and then baseball season, same thing. And we did a lot with neighborhood kids, you know. And then something in me, just that moment where I got cut from JV is what led me to saying no, baseball's it. It made me mad. And I said, okay, there's something special I love about baseball. I love football and I love basketball, but there's something to me it's just there's different in a better way in my heart for baseball. And so I said, okay, from here on out, no more basketball, no more football. It's all baseball. I'm going all in. And once that set, and then I went to that camp, a major league pitcher who was the pitching coach for ODU, Jim Farr, what I was saying, he pulled me aside in the tunnel and he said, you could be a great pitcher. You could be a first rounder one day. And of course, he wanted me to come to Old Dominion. So the recruiting process had started, you know.
Oh yeah, who's always had a good baseball program. I mean, ODU, obviously.
Oh yeah. And I believed him. You know, I believed he was right. I believed I could be great. And that was when it really first started. And then the other part was I started watching guys on TV more. And I looked at them. We didn't have a lot of video then. Every now and then I'd see myself on video. And I said, you know what? I can do that. I know I can do that or better. Watching guys on TV. And I knew that my speed picked up was about the same speed as theirs, maybe a little behind. And I looked at how thin I was, you know, my junior year, I was 6'4". I might have been 120, 130 something pounds, maybe. And the scouts were like, "How the heck are you throwing the ball at all, much less that hard?" And so 1+1=2. I know when I fill it out some, I throw a lot harder. And I said, you know what, I could be great. I just believed it, and it wasn't any arrogance at all. It was the fine line between arrogance and confidence.
Right.
And
Well,
so that was it.
So when did you end up getting drafted out of high school or go to college? Talk about that kind of next progression.
That's what happened. Yeah. So the scouts were on it. I probably actually would have gone to Old Dominion. I was recruited by all the baseball schools here in Virginia and some in North Carolina, some up north, but then also Miami. Miami is where I wanted to go. Because I goofed around all the time on grades, I probably would have needed to go to junior college the first spring. I had no idea how great junior college was back then. I'm like, junior college, I had no idea. A lot of times junior college is better at baseball than the Division Ones. A lot
I think
of
a
times.
lot of guys that transferred in from JUCO were sometimes some of the best athletes, absolutely, players.
Yeah. Well, looking over my whole pro career, the best guys I ever played with and against collectively, no question, junior college. No, every year there were more junior college guys drafted each year than there were Division One. I'd be playing with guys who were better than the guys we were watching on TV in the College World Series.
Wow.
And we're in rookie ball, and the guys we're playing with from a junior college are better. And so that was interesting to me because you'd have never thought that. And that's not always true, of course. There's a lot of great Division One baseball players, of course, but just collectively, and so but then Milwaukee drafted me, and I love the scout. And a lot of these big time scouts, big time scout, they're great salesmen. And he was a great salesman. And I was just convinced that if I went out of high school, that I had an advantage over everyone going in early. But what I didn't know is how political the minor league baseball system is like. And DJ knows what I'm talking about. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never seen companies, organizations, or anything that's political. I don't usually talk about that because I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, though. But it was. And so if I had known that, I would have definitely gone to either like Old Dominion or down to Miami, because then, you have 3 years to raise your stock in the draft, because I was drafted low. But the way I was pitching by what would have been my junior year, I would have been I would have been a first or second rounder probably. And you sign for a lot of money then, and it's all about the money. You have that money, and you're going to shoot to the top whether you like it or not.
Right.
It's that kind of thing. You gotta really do bad to not make it.
Yeah, because the team's invested the dollars and they want to make sure that's a good ROI. That makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you went into a company, just any company, and you signed for 10,000, and the guy right beside you, and y'all are equal ability, roughly, but he signs for $1 million,
Right.
and you say he came on board. Yeah, he's moving up the corporate ladder before you are.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So I battled that my whole career. I had to be 3 times better than all those guys just to stick around, much less move up. And I didn't know that coming out of high school. I had no idea. If I had known, there's no way I would have done it. But I wouldn't take away those years with Milwaukee for anything, though, what I learned while I was there, and the experiences either. So, I look back on it as very valuable. I became a man out in Phoenix, Arizona with Milwaukee in rookie ball. And, I feel like I'm a better husband and everything now, partly because of what happened out there. So I wouldn't trade it. The Lord knew what he was doing, obviously. But on paper, I would have been better going to a big university and playing out of high school.
I bet you two crossed paths somewhere down the road, maybe. You just don't remember it. I mean, had to have.
Well, actually, he came in as I was almost exiting.
Okay. All right.
Because you came in '92.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 92.
I'll tell you. Well, no, you may not remember this, DJ, but here's what's crazy. DJ, you were called up on my 18th birthday.
No kidding.
May 6, 1992.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I thought when we met, and And DJ and I don't know if we said it already, have gone and spoken at different places together. And I think that's when we figured it out. And I'm like, no way, you know, because you were called up by the Mets, who I ended up playing with on my 18th birthday.
Yeah, obviously you had in some run-ins at Harbor Park, and I found out this morning as we were kind of getting ready for the show today that DJ got struck out by the country music singer Tim McGraw at Harbor Park in like a celebrity game. We need to get Faith and Tim McGraw on the show, clearly.
They actually met at Penn State.
But hey,
yeah. Small world.
Yeah.
Well, but in DJ's defense, though, he had a major league.
His
DNA.
Yeah, the DNA was strong, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, talk about going back to baseball real quick. Like, I mean, you have so many stories. Like, Jeter, A-Rod. Can you just talk through a couple of those real quick? Just like some of those fun baseball stories, or playing with Ricky. I mean, I know you can go a million places, but yeah, just a couple. Stories.
Oh yeah, okay. So in Halliday too, I got stories about. We were roommates.
Oh, all right. Okay.
In a condo in Tarpon Springs, Florida, and we were all big kids, and he had a lot of money and wasn't afraid to spend it. And so yeah, there's a lot of stories there too. Let me see. With Alex. Okay, so what was it? I guess it was 94. 93, he was the first pick overall, but he didn't sign. He wasn't really playing, I guess, till 94 spring. And I faced him. I think it must have been spring training. And I got the 2 strikes on him, but the second strike, and DJ knows what I'm talking about. First rounders aren't always all the hype that they bring about them. And I started noticing that, and some of them were. You're like, whoa, okay, he's superhuman. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them, you're like, you know what? I'm just as good as him, you know, whatever. I can see why they drafted him, but, you know, whatever. You know, and we're competitive anyway, so.
Sure, right.
But with Alex, it was like, okay, you know, I threw him I felt like a great 2-seamer in for the second strike. Down and in, it ends up moving at the last second for a ball, sinks down and in hard. And 99% of everyone, if they swung, they'd have swung over it. And he not only hit it, he hit it one-handed and got the barrel through it and pulled it down the line. And I thought it was gone. And it hooked foul about this far and hit that aluminum fence real loud. Bam! And I go, oh my gosh.
It's a long strike.
Whoa. I said, okay, he's legit. And,
right.
And so, but then the next pitch, my forkball that I was known for, the catcher would just go, you know, and I struck him out with the forkball. That's the only time I faced him.
You struck out A-Rod. Put it on the resume, baby. That's a good one. Come on.
He won't remember it, but I do. You know,
A-Rod's hitting 0 against you.
Amen. Not that I'm still competitive or anything.
Right. Not at all.
Yeah.
I love it.
And let me see, with Jeter, the first time I faced him, I thought, man, because he was little looking. He was kind of, I guess he was not far removed from high school at that point. We were drafted in the same draft, 1992.
Okay.
We're one of, as far as I know, 4 Dereks, D-E-R-E-K.
Okay, all right.
So like a trivia, and there were 4, and we ended up working out together down in Florida because one of my best friends with the Mets, J.D. Artiego, who's now pitching coach or head coach for Miami, grew up with Alex, and Alex was friends with Derek, and everybody, you know, baseball is a small world. Yeah. We all end up together getting ready for spring training down in the heat, you know. And but Jeter is one of 4, and then Derek Wallace was with the Mets, and we were down there, and so 3 of them down there together at the same time, which was kind of cool. And the 4th one, I don't even know who it is. I think he was with the Mariners. He didn't make it through maybe rookie ball, and then that was it. But with Jeter, the first time I saw him, I would test hitters, and I was like, okay, he's a first rounder. I don't see it, whatever. And I was joking with guys before the game. He doesn't look like he's all that, whatever. And I threw a 2-seam, and the way I would test hitters to test their hands, And so I'd throw the pitch, and then you watch their hands. The hands tell you everything you need to know. So you got to watch them like a hawk, watch their hands. And I threw a two seam, it was probably 90 sinking down the middle. And I followed through, and before I could even blink, the ball hit my ear, a line drive. Or no, it was this one. And by the time I turn around to look, it was one hop in the center fielder for a single. And I look over, and behind, he's leading off like nothing happened. He's just like leading off with that look in his eyes, like no big deal. And I'm like, whoa, holy crap, And I look past him, and he's leading off. And all my friends are in the bullpen, like joking and laughing and saying, "Oh, he's not all that, huh?" And that was the first time. But then the second time, I had learned how to pitch this type of hitter, pound them in, and then waste one way in the dirt. And you'll be surprised how often they chase it because they think they can hit anything, and they're usually right. I throw him a slider way off down in the dirt, and he actually chased it for a check swing, and I got him. And so that's the only two times I faced Jeter.
You struck out A-Rod and Jeter.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I was almost always in the minors, so it's hilarious to me, and and so, but yeah, and then ask me about someone else. Who was that? Did you ask me about?
Well, did you? Okay, so I know you played with, and I didn't say this, I think, but Piazza. So did you pitch to Piazza? Did you spend some time with Piazza, or
Only a little bit? Yeah,
okay.
In fact, the game so there's an exhibition game that happens here in Norfolk with the Tides.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, of course, the Norfolk Tides or the Tidewater Tides were always the Mets. And so I was an A-ball, double-A or something with them, and they brought me here to play against the Tides for the Mets. So I pitched for the Mets, and it was the day after, I believe, that Piazza came to the Mets in that big trade from the Marlins.
Wow.
And so I was one of the first pitchers to ever pitch to him in a Mets uniform.
That's cool.
Yeah, he didn't play much that game, though.
Sure.
And so I think one of my innings was to a different catcher. It wasn't Pratt. It was someone else. And then the next inning was Piazza. So, yeah. But that was the only time that I remember that I pitched to him. So he wasn't – well, no, I shouldn't say this public. Never mind. He wasn't –
yeah, everything is recorded live. It is no filter, but
there's this is No Filter Network.
It will live on Caffeine TV.
I think I know what you're going to say.
No Filter Network, YouTube. It will be out there forever. So,
DJ knows what I was going to say. Let's just say he was a great hitter.
Yes, he was an amazing hitter.
He was a great hitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Holiday, Ricky Henderson. I mean, wow, what a
Ricky
lineup.
Henderson. That's who you asked me about.
Yeah, I mentioned Ricky earlier. Yeah.
You talk about a character. Wow.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now with the Mets, I was only there one day. I have a fun. Okay, so I can tell whatever story, right? No filter.
Yeah.
So I happen to be on the major league side. We're there, and we're watching. Okay, so and Ricky Henderson's with the Mets, and Hershiser was pitching, and Hershiser had struck out on 3 straight sliders, and he slung the bat into the dugout every time, into the Mets dugout. So by the second time, Bobby Valentine's making a big joke about it. He gets out a big trash can like he's jousting, and he has a bat, and he's telling everyone, "Get behind me," and he's acting like he's protecting them. And sure enough, Hershiser slings the bat again on a 3rd slider. And it hit the trash can that Bobby Valentine had, and it literally hit the trash can. All this is going on. Everyone's laughing. The crowd's all into it. Hershiser stays on the field, right? He's taking off his bat and glove. He just struck out. He's humiliated. He's laughing about it. He goes out. He warms up. He's pitching. The ball gets thrown around the horn. He's ready to throw his first pitch, and the umpire's like, no. And you look in left field, and there's no one in left field. And it's supposed to be Ricky Henderson. And everyone knows it. And where's Ricky? And like they start chanting, Ricky, and all this, right? And so Valentine's like, sending the bat boys in there in the clubhouse. Well, let's just say Ricky is reading the newspaper on the stool.
Got it. Got it.
He's all like, he's got his shower shoes off. He's all like comfortable reading the newspaper. And the bat boys come in and say, Ricky, the inning started. You got to be out there. He said, you tell them Ricky will be out there when Ricky's ready. And so now anyone on earth
Yeah,
would run out. Yeah. I mean, man, the only person that could ever get away with that is him.
Yeah.
Right.
And he comes out.
Dion, yeah, like somebody like that kind of character. Yeah.
Yeah, a Hall of Famer, greatest leadoff ever, greatest leadoff hitter ever.
Right.
So he comes out, he's on the dugout, he puts his, he takes his time, puts his gloves on, everyone's staring at him. Valentine's like, at that point it's like, whatever. And instead of running out of his position or jogging or even walking briskly, he walks as slow as humanly possible.
Oh my gosh.
And it makes it like a spectacle, And everyone now, the chances keep getting louder. And he puts his glove on and he literally looks like at the umpire and like, you may go now. And so we played together then. I tried to ask him advice. I wasn't hardly ever on that side very, So, but he years later, like if you asked him advice then, he's like, "Nah, Ricky ain't telling you anything because I may have to get a bag off of you later." So he didn't want to give us any advice competitively because we may end up facing him and him be on first, later. But then later on, we played together in a AAA league up in the Northeast, and he was near the end then. He was like in his early 40s, I think. And so I asked him one day, and this time he started telling me everything, about, he's like, the easiest thing in the world is just to steal off a slide step. He says slide step is stupid. And we knew that anyway. We hardly ever would use we'd never use a slide step. He said it was easier to run off of. He gave me an advice on, he stole most of his bags off of getting a running lead and certain things that he would have never told us before. And him and I got to talk to Lou Brock about this. They would steal off of the weight distribution of the leg, especially if a pitcher had on, his pants were tighter. He could see the crease in your crotch. And if the crease was leaning one way, you were going to pick. But if it was leaning another way, you were going to go. So some amazing little tips that you'd never thought about.
Because you think about and just for any position, not just in baseball, but anything, like people say he's fast. It's the brain too. It's like an art and a science to looking at all those small things and being able to determine and he's super fast. But I mean, for any position, any sport, it's how tactical it is.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, one of the first things we did my first year in St. Lucie was what I learned to do was time the pitcher to home plate and of course the catcher. But if the pitcher had a 1.6 or higher, I mean, it was that you're going to steal, right? And 1.3 maybe, you just got to get a jump. But the point is to your point, tactical. Learning the game and learning that 1% area, right? To get better.
Yeah, and that's why it was so big for us to know how to hold runners on. And that's what Ricky was saying. He's saying, you get me by holding me on better. The pickoffs, the different timings of your leg kick. So it wasn't just as much how quick you were, but how you timed it. He said the pitchers that really got him they'd have a long, slow leg kick and then a quick one. And they vary their times. And just when you, and see, because like we talked about quick twitch muscles earlier, when you hold longer, the longer you hold, what happens to the base runner's muscles, especially when he's anxious to steal, the longer he stays there, the more his muscles tighten. And you're never more athletic, quicker, or stronger than when you go from being fully relaxed to fully firing. It's scientific fact. So your muscles fire much better, stronger, and quicker when you're fully relaxed right before. So if you can get a base stealer to tighten his muscles, he ain't going anywhere. And that's part of what Ricky talked about as well. And and so that's why he loved a running lead. He just run, and so a lot of his bases, like to your point, that he stole, if you look back, a lot of them were where he could have walked in.
Right.
He already had the bag stolen. Like you said, he didn't need the speed, but he had it. I remember hearing that he ran, and y'all know what I'm talking about because y'all ran the 60s before, a 60-yard dash. His 60-yard dash was a 5.9. I didn't think that was even possible. That's got to be Olympic speed, I had never heard. It was like a 5.89.
Wow.
And so I would think that's impossible, but
I
remember hearing.
I love that like base stealing is back. We had our first guest ever on the show was Eric Burns, obviously big personality, played in MLB, coached the Savannah Bananas. But actually I was thinking about him actually when we were talking earlier, just because of your journey of going up and down, and just the trials and tribulations that comes with being in the minor leagues. And obviously we've talked about this with you too and some other guests on the show, but it takes a lot. And I mean, knowing that you were in the league for 14 years, I mean, that's a long time, a lot of dedication as far as like commitment to the sport goes. I was just curious, like, and we kind of always ask all of our guests this question: what are some of the things that you learned in athletics that you're using now today, obviously, and what you're doing with not only your ministry, but also with working with kids, and just kind of like, are there a couple kind of like life lessons, if you will, or kind of things that you, yeah, sorry to put you on the spot, but just kind of like in general, like those kind of big rocks, if you will, that you've taken and then now you're leveraging that you learned coming up through professional baseball?
Oh man, there's just so much. And we would need like 3 or 4 of these podcasts just to so I'll get to some of the main ones. Like, okay, so I teach the Bible with everything I teach. And I preach, I do evangelism. I go to different places and speak. Preach at local churches on Sunday. And then I preach to each and every student. And so when they first come, I tell them, I say, look, I'm a preacher disguised as a baseball coach. There's your warning. And so, because again, getting to the heart. So when I would get ready, I learned how to get ready for games properly. And DJ, I'll tell you, when you're playing pro baseball, man, it's so competitive and you have to be at your best consistently.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to have bad days and feel bad because someone else will feel great and you're done. And so I knew that. And so I knew I had to get my heart ready each day, no matter how I felt walking in the clubhouse. And so the best way I could come up with was to find an inspiring Bible verse. And I come to find out there's thousands of them. And I'd wait till the clubhouse cleared out because y'all know how crazy baseball people are. And they're loud and obnoxious, man.
I was thinking the same thing earlier. We were talking about the trash can with Valentine. Like baseball players were crazy. We're crazy.
Crazy. And so I knew that. And so I would sit in front of my locker once the clubhouse cleared out right before the game. And normally I was a late reliever or closer usually. And so I could afford to be there right at or before the anthem and all that. And I would just sit in front of my locker and I'd read that Bible verse. And then I would think about what it really, really means. And then I would close my eyes and pray. Lord, protect me. Lord, keep me healthy. Lord, help me to absolutely be my best for you and for me, for everyone. Be my best for my teammates. Help me not to, mess up too badly. Help me not to cuss, and things like that. And just, overall for my heart. And so when I would get done praying, I'd open my eyes up and I instantly felt a ton better. Now my heart was in the right place. Okay, got that taken care of. Then I grabbed my glove and I just, I always like to smell that leather, and I just put my face in the glove, and I closed my eyes again, and I'd visualize striking guys out. And so it was visualization.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see victory ahead of time. Nike means prevail, pre-veil victory. Nike, the Greek word actually means to go and get the victory ahead of time. That's vision. You have to see it before it happens. Well, that's your heart. Again, your heart's tied to vision. You'll do whatever it takes if your heart's tied to a vision bigger than you. And so I knew that, and so I would visualize striking guys out with every pitch imaginable in every location you could think of. Lefties, righties, tall, short, skinny, fat, you name it, big and strong. You know, and then after the first time I did that,
Peter A-Rod, it doesn't matter.
Peter A-Rod. Oh no, y'all like this one. Y'all like this one. I'm playing. I think it's spring training again. It must have been spring training because I'm pitching against the Oakland A's AA team for that year, and we're about to break camp. And their top of their lineup was Jermaine Dye, Eric Chavez, Jason Giambi, and Jeremy Giambi.
Okay, that's the team. That's the Moneyball team. That was their was on. Yeah, that's that team. So man, I wonder if Derek pitched against Bernsey maybe along the way somewhere. We're gonna do a little homework.
You know, I bet. Yeah,
I bet
that's
you did
right.
Along the way somewhere up and down, no doubt.
He may have came in later, but yeah, I'm not sure. But I had visualized striking them out. We had heard about them. Those guys were like, okay, they're probably going to be in the majors, you know. And I literally had 4 strikeouts in that inning, and 4 because the catcher kept missing it. And so, you know, the guy got to go to first, which I think is lame, but I was thankful for it because I got 4 strikeouts in the inning. And so everyone was joking and all, but that was from visualization. That was the point. I saw it, and it freaked me out, actually. I remember standing on the mound. I'm like, I'll be daggone. This works. But here's the point, though. God honors faith. God honors faith. It's not baseball gods. You know, we had a saying in baseball, the ball will find you. If you're thinking negatively, that ball it's getting hit to you and you're not going to catch it.
I tell my kids this every week, and it's so true. It's so true how it works.
But here's why. God the Father, the creator of the universe, he created each of us. He knows us way better than we know ourselves. And he will not look on a lack of faith. He hates negativity, but he loves you. And so when you're negative, he turns. But when you're faithful and you believe and you have faith and hit the ball to me, he says, that's my boy. I'm going to bless that. That's why visualization works. It's not baseball gods or karma. Give me a break. It's because he loves when we believe. That's why. So I caught on to this, and that's what happened that inning. In other words, I'm giving the Lord credit, not me. Mm-hmm. And it's because when you pray regularly, irregular things happen regularly.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's how that happened. And so it's but it's visualization. And, you know, another verse I'll share with people is, and the Bible says, as a man or as a person thinks in their heart, so are they. And, you know, some Greek philosopher, somebody said, as a man thinketh, so is he. And everyone goes, ooh. But the Bible did a whole lot better than that. The Bible said, I think it's in Psalms, as a person thinks in their heart, so are they. So the Bible is saying not only can you think with your heart, but that you should. And that's the key. Now, scientists have proven now that you have neurons in your gut, in your heart, and your brain. So your heart thinks, your gut thinks, and your brain thinks. It's amazing. And science has proven, science just keeps catching up with what the Bible said thousands of years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. And they found neurons, neurological paths, and all that. Your gut, you know, I just felt it in my gut, you know, or I just know in my heart. Mm-hmm. The Bible actually said it, because the gut is where compassion. So if you know in the Bible where it says Jesus had compassion on everyone and he healed them, or the prodigal son where the father saw his son from far off and had compassion for him, and the son had gone and lived crazy and came back to his dad ashamed, and the dad put his arms around him, hugged him, and kissed him because he had compassion on him. That compassion says from the bowels. Mm. So the compassion came from his gut, which is connected to your heart and your brain. Mm. So when we know this, we can teach everyone better. We can help everyone better. What I always tell the congregation or my students or whoever is that all of life boils down to two things. And it's just two things with all the details mixed in. Two things: doing the best with what God gave you, whatever it is, doing the absolute best with whatever you've been given, talents, etc., what God has placed under your management, doing the best with what God's given you, and taking more people to heaven with you. That's it. And so many people don't catch on to the second part. There's people who catch on to the first. Tiger Woods has done the best with what God's given him. Whether he gives credit to the Lord or not, he's done the best with what he's given him. I don't know if he's taken more people to heaven with him. So it's both. And so anyway, and that's a lot of the.
Man, I know you want to go. Go ahead, because then I want to build on.
No,
that.
go ahead.
No. I just. Well, first of all, personally, like I had Philippians 4:13 written in the brim of my hat from middle school all the way until college. I was actually telling my daughter the story last night when we were on the way to dinner, and said a prayer before every at bat. But I think too, like I was thinking about JW last week when he was just saying like you can't go to the Lord like when you need Him. It's like you got to go to the Lord. It's pretty much exactly what you just said there. It's like making it a regular thing. And to your point about the second kind of big truth there is our journey alone here with just the podcast. I mean, we, decide to dominate sports innovation next. We're sports, we're technology, we're innovation, we're innovative products and services. We do it like an array of things, but I mean, I feel like we should have known better because DJ's book has so much of faith in it. And it's come through in almost every interview we've had. I mean, the success of people and the walks and journeys that they've taken, I think there's a lot to be said about faith and their relationship with God and Christ. And I think for me, this has just been fantastic. Like this whole journey of even just these shows. Go ahead.
Derek, my last question is, with your students, how many of them have come back and say, hey, thank you for everything you taught me, in baseball, but also from a spiritual standpoint?
Man, that's a great question. And I'll think about yours real quick too, first, before I answer that, because they're intertwined. Success is getting up one more time than you've been knocked down. So if you get knocked down 1,000 times and get up 1,001, you win. Mm-hmm. If at the end you're still standing, you've won. So you go in saying, I don't care how many times I get knocked down, I'm going to keep getting back up. So Philippians 4:13 is that. Mm-hmm. Because Nepal, a lot of people won't read the chapter and the verses before that, where he had been knocked down, shipwrecked, left for dead, killed, brought back to life, snake bitten, stranded, spit on, fought with, everything you can think of. Then he says, but I keep getting back up. I've learned how to abound in victory. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Right.
And so that was that. And so I'm sorry. And DJ, your question again?
Yeah. So I was asking about students that you've taught. How many have come back and given you?
Thanks for the baseball tip, but also for kind of leading me down the right path.
Right.
So it's funny because I was reading this verse again last night, and I had a feeling this would come up, where Jesus healed 10 lepers. 10. One came back to thank him. And that's been frustrating for me. Because there are a lot of people that quit too soon, and they won't come back because they're ashamed. They know they should have kept going and didn't. And almost always in college, I've had so many big time guys who could and should be in the major leagues dominating right now and aren't. Almost always it's girls and drinking or both.
Wow.
So I preach a lot about that. Now I dig in harder with guys because I think, did I preach hard enough to those guys? Maybe I should have preached to them more about it. But then I'll have guys coming down the driveway, DJ, that have tears in their eyes, thanking me. I remember I was at a golf tournament, and Courtney Macbeth, who has a big church, Calvary Revival, it was his golf tournament, and we were talking, and I said, yeah, it's great. I said, I'm frustrated, how many guys I don't hear from, though, and guys, some that don't make it. And he's like, oh, well, Jesus had 1 out of 10, 10%. So should we expect more than that?
Right.
Jesus healed a deathly skin disease and only one came back to thank him.
Right, to say thank you.
That's amazing if you think about it. It's just human nature. It's really weird, actually.
Mm.
And you know, but I have guys that are in the minors and on their way to the majors right now that physically had less talent than I had a list of guys I know. Okay, they could make it to the major leagues and have a big impact, and didn't make it. And they all had more talent physically than the guys I have in the minors on their way to the majors now. I have like 4 or 5 right now that are on their path. And I have a list of at least 15 guys who were all physically better than them and didn't make it because their heart wasn't in the right place, didn't stay in the right place. And so some of them have come back and apologized, actually, but not many. So that's just a great question. And it's disheartening, but, you know, you got to keep doing what you know you're supposed to do. Keep pouring into the next people. Whoever receives it, you know?
Right.
Well, 1 out of 10 coming back to say thank you. And I bet a lot of those people you added to God's roster on your second thing there, the big rock to work on. So,
Yeah.
I mean, well, first of all, you're local, and we do actually have a golf tournament coming up, and we have it annually. So if you can't make it out this year, we'd love to have you out to support our nonprofit who works with veterans and those in the community who are in need. We have a couple pro golfers. We had some NFL guys last year. Well, DJ's NFL MLB, but we'd love to have you out to that, some other events, and
oh, amen. You know, golf is in heaven. You know, I'll be there.
Okay,
I'll be there.
Okay,
Count
good.
me in.
Good to know.
Just tell
Good
me
to know.
when and where.
This was amazing. We're kind of at our time for today. I'm sorry we had a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning, but Haley's amazing, and she got you on. She's over here. She's our support staff. We're so
She's
blessed.
smiling right now, I bet. She's
Yeah,
smiling.
she's smiling and laughing over here. Yeah, absolutely. We're totally going to get her on camera one day. It's happening. Any last thoughts? Or
No,
words?
Derek, just a blessing. I knew this was going to be a great show. Really appreciate your heart and everything you're doing with the youth. And I'm sorry my son didn't have a chance to play baseball and get some training from you, you know, both spiritually and in the sport. But just want to say thank you on camera here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
All right. Well, thank you, Derek. We appreciate it. We'll send you the link and share everything. And in the meantime, we'll see you hanging out in the 757.
There you go.
Yes, indeed. Thank
Hit
you
'em
so
straight.
much.
Hit them straight, DJ said.
Yeah, just tell me when.
All right. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Derek. Have a
guys.
great day.
Okay, you too.
All right.